Hi, you're welcome to this section of our video. Today I'd like to talk about foundations of principled paradigm. No doubt about the fact that at Fetcher Networks we talk majorly when it comes to, we talked about paradigm, and paradigm has a major role to play generally in any categories of life. And when you're trying to build a principled oriented paradigm, it is important for you to have a firm grip on four important areas or four important key points. And that has to do with self-awareness, endowment, values, and conscience. No doubt about the fact that self-awareness have a major role to play generally in any categories of life. If you want to build a paradigm, the right paradigm, a principled paradigm, it is important to have a good understanding of your self-awareness. There has been instances in which people will tell you, they will look up to you and tell you, look, I don't know much about myself. And the problem isn't not knowing much about oneself, but the problem is one working towards knowing oneself. And that's why I would, at every instance, is always encourage people to leverage on solitude. So you want to take a time and get the self-awareness right. Understand who you are. Who are you as a person? What makes you who you are? And the moment you're able to get a firm grip of your self-awareness, you would realize that from your self-awareness, you will be able to know your endowment. There are so many people who lived for quite a long period of time, and they don't know their natural endowment. And one thing about God, the Jehovah who created the universe, is the fact that He gave each and every one an endowment in which, when they're able to harness those endowments, they would always thrive on a larger scale. And so you want to ask yourself, what are your endowments? The moment you get your natural endowment right, then you want to build values around your natural endowment. Don't be surprised that in the society generally today, when you see most of those great actors, most of those great actresses, most of those leaders generally, there's one thing they were able to get right. They were able to understand their natural endowment. It is their natural endowment that positions them in the path towards which they thrive. But one thing about such endowment is the fact that there are so many people who have those endowments, who recognize those endowments, but all they put that in is secondary sources. That is sources that's not sustainable. Primary sources are sources that are sustainable. So in the real sense, they couldn't sustain the sources. Why? Because they ignore or they neglect the values as well as the conscience aspects of principle-oriented paradigm. Immediately, you have harnessed or understand your endowment. You want to take a step further to build values around your endowment. When you build values around your endowment, you will be able to see that the values you build would help you in harnessing, not only harnessing your endowment, but ensuring that you sustain sources, primary sources over a long period of time. And another thing is conscience. Don't be surprised that there are instances in which when people with great talents, with great endowments, they understand their endowment, but they choose this either to ignore the values or perhaps they ignore the conscience. And thus, before you realize it, they wouldn't be able to sustain success over a long period of time. So not only do you want to harness your endowment or understand your endowment, you want to build value. And not only do you want to build values, you want to associate the values to your conscience. This is how I mean. Just as the conscience is more like, I would say it's more like a pointer. And let's assume this is something, this is black. You choose is not to assign, not to let your conscience know this is black. No doubt about the fact that when your conscience sees it, it might like, oh, this is black, this is red, whatever. But when you've been able to, like, okay, from your conscience, you've been able to build some certain values and associate high values to some certain things, and associate low values to some certain things, then your conscience would always help in projecting you, in building a foundation, in serving as a great foundation for your principle-oriented paradigm to be able to thrive over the long period of time and you leverage on it to build your desired success. Take for instance, someone who doesn't take delight in cheating, and no doubt about the fact that if you're a great leader, or perhaps you have a very great talent, if you take delight in cheating people, no doubt about the fact that you will not be able to sustain primary success. You don't be able to sustain success over the long period. Because people wouldn't want to deal with you because you're cheating. Because you cheat on them and all others, you take advantage of them, they will not want to do anything with you. Then before you realize it, the endowment which you have wouldn't be able to sustain your success over the period of time. Now your values as well as your conscience has a major role to play. And what happened right there is the fact that agreeably you have a self-awareness, you understand your self-endowment, but you've not been able to associate values, high values, to non-cheating. Let's take for instance, this is cheating, someone who cheats. Let's take this the value sort of. You associate high values to cheating. And thus, as a result, you choose, you then add muscle, you don't tell your conscience, oh, cheating is bad. And you tell your conscience, oh, cheating is neither bad nor good. So by default, when there is an opportunity to cheat, your conscience would leverage on it because you've not actually trained your conscience to see cheating as something that is bad. So no doubt about the fact that you want to try as much as you can to build a value around your endowment. And not only are you building values, you want to train your conscience to be able to know what is good, to be able to associate your values, you want to associate your values to your conscience. You want to map your values, more like mapping it on your conscience. Such a way that your values, your conscience will determine, okay, will be able to see there is an opportunity to cheat. Your conscience will be like, oh no, you've actually assigned cheating to be bad. Then your conscience would help you to pull back. But when you've actually not assigned cheating to be bad to your conscience, and neither have you tell your conscience this thing is good or bad, by default, if there is an opportunity, your conscience will see that something good. But when you ascertain cheating, for instance, as something bad, then by default, you won't be able to pull back when there is need for you to cheat in any scenario. And before you realize it, you're building the right foundations for principle-oriented paradigm. No doubt about the fact that we would like to take you through some procedures on how best you can harness or develop principle-oriented paradigm. That's why I would encourage you to often as much as you can subscribe to our mails at Feta Networks and take advantage of the various opportunities which we have there. We have one-on-one coaching, we have as well courses which is tailored towards helping our friends, our clients as well to build a principle-oriented paradigm. I look forward to seeing you in some other videos of ours, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. Hope to see you there.